I think Tiffany Aching meeting the Ankh-Morpork City Watch is the crossover we've all been waiting for. Hello and welcome to The Book Thing. My name is Mark, and today I'm reading the 38th Discworld book and the 4th book in the Tiffany Aching series, I Shall Wear Midnight. So I Shall Wear Midnight is the ongoing story of Tiffany Aching as the Witch of the Chalk. Tiffany's now 16 and has established herself as a witch, and she is looking after her community in the way that the witches do, so doing the small things that are important, looking after the sick, acting as a midwife, and all that sort of thing. Sometimes those duties are relatively easy and sometimes those duties are quite hard. And one of the more difficult ones that she's having to deal with is to look after the old Baron in the final days of his life. Roland, the Baron's son, is the boy that Tiffany rescued from the Queen of the Fairies in The We Free Men and had started to build up a relationship with over the following 2 books. But now Roland is betrothed to be married and ready to step up to be the next Baron, and Tiffany is the witch, and their once close relationship is a lot more strained than it used to be. Tiffany is doing her best to take away the pain of the old Baron, but eventually the man succumbs to his illness and to age and passes away, but at a time when Roland and his fiancée are visiting Ankh-Morpork. So Tiffany needs to make a trip to Ankh-Morpork to impart the sad news that Roland's father has passed away. This is all taking place on a backdrop of an anti-witch sentiment that seems to be just around the chalk, but actually seems to be building up just about everywhere else as well. Emotions are running high and witches are starting to get the blame for a lot of things. And what seems to be the case is that this ill feeling towards witches is caused by and bringing about the appearance of someone known as the Cunning Man, who seems to be this malevolent spirit from bygone age, from when the witches were hunted. On top of this, you have, of course, the Knock McFeagle, the We Free Men, the Pixies that are never far behind Tiffany and always on the lookout for her, but frequently causing her just as much trouble as they get her out of. By the way, I have read all of the Discworld novels up to this point, so if you'd like to see my reviews for any of the other Tiffany Aching books or any of the other Discworld books, please check out my channel, and if you like what you see, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons as well. One of the things I've really enjoyed about the Tiffany books is that we've get to see her grow up and develop. I mean, when we first saw her, she was this precocious 8-year-old. Now she is, although a teenage girl, a full-fledged witch and doing all the stuff that a witch is expected to do in the Discworld. And some of that is dealing with some pretty dark stuff, and I'm not just talking about the Cunning Man, I'm talking about the actual people that she has to deal with on a daily basis as well. I Shall Wear Midnight, for a YA book, goes to some pretty dark places, and it goes to those places quite early on. I was quite surprised that the second chapter of this book was concerned with teen pregnancy, miscarriage, domestic violence, and vigilante justice, all in one chapter. Now that is a lot. So aside from putting chapters in and marginally toning down some of the language, Terry Pratchett did not pull punches when he was writing his YA books. It might feel a bit fan-fiction-y, but it is really cool to see Tiffany going into Ankh-Morpork and meeting up with the likes of Sergeant Angua and Captain Carrot. But aside from those cameos, there is also another cameo which might be a little bit of a spoiler, which I'm going to spoil now in 3, 2, 1. It's Escarina Smith, the original precocious witch child from Equal Rights, who has now grown up and become a formidable magic user herself. I enjoyed I Shall Wear Midnight quite a lot, actually. It had the courage to bring in some fairly adult themes and not to be afraid of diverting from some of the tropes of YA fiction. For example, and again, this might be a mild spoiler, but you know, the relationship between Tiffany and Roland seemed to be something that was setting them up as being a couple in the future. And it's good that in a piece of YA fiction that Pratchett showed that actually people can drift apart and not be necessarily meant for each other, and that's okay for both of them. The Feagles, as always, are great fun, and the damage that they do in Ankh-Morpork is pretty hilarious, especially when they come face to face with a long-lost cousin of theirs, the Watchman Wee Mad Arthur, who also gets to learn about his heritage as well. For me personally, it's the strongest of the Tiffany Aching books so far. They seem to improve as time goes on. And the antagonist of the Cunning Man, who he is, what he represents, and what he brings out in other people as well, makes him a really, really good villain who really quite raises the stakes for Tiffany in this story. Personally, so far, this is actually my favourite of the Tiffany Aching books. I gave it 4.5 stars and I really quite enjoyed it. Going into this Discworld reread, I wasn't particularly looking forward to the Tiffany Aching books, but they get pretty strong and I'm curious as to how they finish up in The Shepherd's Crown. So that was my review for I Shall Wear Midnight. The next book I'll be reading is the 39th book and the final City Watch book, Snuff. So I hope you'll join me for that one. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate you taking the time to do that, and take care.